Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine McCoy and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, thank you for clicking in to drop by, but if you are a returner, it is always nice to have you back. And in this video, as I'm sure you can tell by the title of it, we are going to be talking about how it is that I got into a top 15 medical school. But before we get too far ahead, if you are not subscribed, go ahead and fix that using the button in the bottom right-hand corner. It doesn't take long, just a couple of seconds, and it doesn't cost you anything. And if you like the video at the end, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. But this video is going to be essentially me talking about my pathway, my journey of college all the way up through the application process, and now sitting in this place that I currently am sitting in, of being an admitted student getting ready to start at a top 15 medical school. That school being Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois. So I'm gonna have a great time. But this video is not about that and all of the beautiful memories that I am going to make over the next 4 years. This video is for you. And I am not, disclaimer, I am not some sort of guidance counselor. This video is purely just for information to talk about my experience and how I got into this medical school. It's not going to work for everyone. There are multiple different paths. Many roads can lead to Rome. So just putting that out there. But the first thing we're going to talk about on this road to getting into medical school starts with your college and specifically your GPA. Now I want to make another disclaimer right now that you are much more than just your numbers. You are much more than just your stats. And I did have one of my subscribers, Miriam Hart, ask me if I could talk about my stats and my activities. So we're going to get into that a little bit in this video. But you are much more than just your numbers. You are much more than just a quantified point on a grade scale. That's not to say that your grades aren't important, but you are much more than that. Good. So GPA, academic achievement, all very important. I went to Harvard for my undergrad. My degree was in molecular and cellular biology, and I had 2 minors in African American studies and Spanish. How did you do all of this? A lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, a lot of patience, and diligence. It's not something that comes easy. Well, I don't have a degree in molecular and cellular biology. You don't need one. You literally do not need one. You can get into medical school from a wide range, literally any kind of degree you can get into medical school. We literally have doctors working at the practice that I work at who had their degrees in music. They can play classical piano like Bach and Mozart and all of that. And here they are now performing surgery. All roads lead to Rome. And as I already mentioned earlier, a good GPA helps. By the time I graduated, I had an overall GPA of 3.81. You do not have to be perfect. I did not graduate with a 4.0. Many people do not graduate with a 4.0 and they still get into medical school. It doesn't have to be a top 15 medical school. Medical school is medical school. The liver is still going to be in the same place no matter what medical school you go to. So relax, you'll be okay. But yes, my GPA at the time of graduation, 3.8. And another thing I have been told that admissions committees like to see is that your GPA gets better and better with each semester. They want to see that you are improving as a student, even in your undergraduate years. So what I did, starting off in my first semester, was I tracked, okay, what my GPA is, how much it changed, and by the end of my education, I was able to make a line graph and it only went up. We like that, but even if that doesn't happen, it's okay. You are more than just a number. But it's not just your overall GPA that matters. They'll want to know your science GPA and your all other GPA. So your science GPA is going to include classes like math, physics, chemistry, biology. You will take the the grades that you got for those specific classes, total them up and get your science GPA, and then everything else creates your all other GPA. And it's normal if those things are a little different because science is hard. Or maybe you're someone who's really good at science and humanities is hard. Either way, they want to see that there is not a grand difference between those two things. So for me, my science GPA was 3.71 and my all other GPA was 3.92. Pretty much an even split between the two of those things. That just shows you that you can get many different places from an imperfect GPA. That's okay. You're not perfect. Very few people are. And it's a part of what makes you you. It makes you unique and gives you something that can stand out on your application. So now we're going to get into the next category. Next category is extracurriculars. And what they want to see from you in this section of getting into medical school is they want to see that over the course of your 4 years that you are well-rounded. Or maybe it's not 4 years. That's okay too. That's okay too. Maybe you're doing a post-bac. Maybe you had to take an extra year in your undergrad. That's okay. But however long you were in your undergraduate years, they want to see that you did some things, that you're well-rounded, that you are more than just go to class, study, sleep. Go to class, study, sleep. What do you do outside of that? So I had many extracurriculars to show them who I am and what it is that I'm passionate about. And they want to see things from many different categories. I'm in intercollegiate athletics. I was able to talk about by serving and being on our cheerleading team, cheering for both football and basketball season. I was able to be a part of the team when we went to the NCAA tournament and got 7th in the nation in the small co-ed division. Yes, we had a very nice cheer team. Another facet of my identity that I was able to talk about and use in my medical school application was serving as a peer advising fellow for Harvard. A peer advising fellow is someone who is a sophomore, junior, or senior who is going to mentor the freshman class. That way they can have a happy and healthy Harvard experience. You could get anywhere from 7 to 13 freshmen that you would be actively checking in with over the course of the year. And that shows I'm into mentorship. I'm into being a role model for people to model their life after. And I'm also someone who's not just going to keep moving forward once I've gotten mine. I'm going to look back, reach back, that way someone can have a better experience than I did, or just to steer them in a better direction. Other things that I did include being an academic resource center tutor. So when someone has trouble in physics, I'm ready to step in and say, physics is great. Physics is amazing. Let me help you understand physics. That way you can learn to love it like I do. So the Academic Resource Center was something at Harvard where people who took the class and got an A- or better were invited saying, hey, you did pretty well in this class. You want to get paid to help people who are struggling at this class? Yes. That was something that I did for math, physics, chemistry, and biology. All those core classes that I mentioned being important to the science GPA from earlier, I was teaching in those because I had gotten A- or better in those classes. And I was able to help so many freshmen, not just freshmen, sophomores, juniors, depending on what class I was teaching. I was able to help so many of them love and understand whatever subject it was that they were struggling with, and that made me feel good because at the end of their school year, they're able to come and say, Jasmine, you helped me so much. I killed it on the final. I have raised my overall score up to a B, and I want you for the second half that they teach next year for this semester. So it was stories like that that I was able to talk about in my application and in my interviews that I feel helped me out, which we'll get on to the application and the interviews very, very soon. But these in total are things that talk about who you are. What is your, the thing that I'm forgetting that I talk about literally all the time on my channel, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Alpha Kappa Alpha is a service-based sorority for Black women all across the United States and the world. I served as the International Second Vice President of the sorority from 2020 to 2022, meaning that I was the third highest ranking member out of 300,000 members for 2 years. That was a very big part of my application and my journey into medical school that I almost skipped over, but it was very central to what I talked about, because not only is that leadership, it's also service. I'm able to talk about, yes, being third highest in the sorority out of 300,000, but I'm also able to talk about how the Undergraduate Activities Committee was able to raise $40,000 for the AKA EAF, Educational Advancement Foundation, which helps our members stay in school, get scholarships, and not have money be a financial barrier to them pursuing their education. So it kind of went into those two sections, but do you see what I'm talking about in this extracurricular section? They want to see that you have community service, that you have leadership, that you have employment, that you have mentorship, that you have teaching experience, that you maybe were an athlete. They want to see that you are more than just a student. You're more than just someone that they can talk to and regurgitate the information or apply the information. Who are you outside of school? That is what they want to see in your extracurriculars. The next section of things we're going to talk about is clinical experience. This was very important on my journey to getting into medical school, because how do you really know you want to work with medicine if you haven't worked with people? That was something that I was asked during one of the pre-med nights that we were having in my dorm, and I went, ooh, that is a good question. How do you know you want to work in medicine if you haven't worked with people? Which, very different. Working with people in a health setting is obviously going to be very different than working with people in a retail setting. So it's very specific that your work with people comes from clinical experience. And that can include something like shadowing. I have shadowed so many different kinds of doctors. I have shadowed an ER doctor, a pediatric doctor. I have shadowed an orthopedist. I have shadowed a retinal surgeon. And these are all things that, yes, do help you gain a little bit of insight to clinical experience. But when you're shadowing, you're not taking an active part in the patient's care, which is a distinction between shadowing and actually working in a clinical experience. So to make up for that, I started working at the Retina Associates of Cleveland. By working there, literally from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, I am getting anywhere from 40 to 45 or 50 hours working with patients in a healthcare setting and seeing so much. And it actually changed my life so much that I decided that ophthalmology was the specialty for me because of what I was seeing day to day in the office. So being able to say, oh yes, in a standard year, I work thousands of hours getting clinical experience since graduating from Harvard. That was something that's obviously going to pique the admissions team's interest, saying like, oh, she has great clinical experience. The next category is going to be research. Research in what, might you ask? You can have wet research, you could have dry research, you could be doing research in a lab, you could be doing research in a clinic, you could be doing data-driven research. This one truly is endless. There are so many options for you. If you know that you don't want to be working with rats and giving them certain injections to see what happens, that's okay. You can work with a computer. If you don't want to work with a computer, you can work with a real-life human, asking them how how living in a certain area affects their mental health versus if they were in a more high socioeconomic status location. research is something that anyone can get into from a variety of different locations. Luckily for me, I was able to get my research experience at work using the connections of my mentor, Dr. Coney. He sits on many boards, and he invited me in. And this is something that he does literally every year, no matter what. And it's something that many of our doctors do, is get the young people interested and involved in research. So he's like, hey, Jasmine, would you like to come and work with me on this Novartis research that I am working on concerning the drug Beovu? So that is what I did. I went and I presented this research at ARVO 2022 and ARVO 2023, and this research was also published. Are you able to get into medical school without being published? Yes, you are. There are some medical schools that I applied to and received my answer to that I was accepted before I found out that I had been accepted in the publishing journal that we had applied to. So it is possible to get in without having a publication. I know it. You do not need it, but it certainly does help. This next phase, we're going to talk about the real nitty-gritty parts of the application and the way that you start, or at least get ready for your MCAS application, is you've got to take your MCAT. Not fun, not at all, but you got to do it, and I believe in you. You will get through it the same way I got through it and the way hundreds of people before you have gotten through it. The way that I told myself and hyped myself up for it is, it's just a test. I've had hundreds of tests, hundreds of thousands of tests before. This is just another one. And this one is multiple choice. So the answer has to be there somewhere. That's what I told myself. What I did is I studied for 5 months, and every day I would go to work, come back home, sit and study for 3-ish hours. Some days it was closer to 2, some days it was closer to 4. But I would study for 3-ish hours, and on Saturdays and Sundays, that's when I would sit for either like 6 hours studying, or I might take a practice MCAT. I also tracked my scores. For each of the practice MCATs, I tracked the amount of questions that I got right versus wrong, as well as my timing on the MCATs, just to make sure that things were going well and I wouldn't be in a situation where, oh no, I have 5 minutes left and I have 10 questions. What do I do? So we didn't have any of that happening, but that is how I got myself ready for the MCAT. I'm pretty sure that there's also another video or 2 on my channel for how it is that I prepared for the MCAT. So if you are in that boat right now, you can go and watch that. And what was my stat for this? Well, I got a 512, which puts me at the top 15-ish% of test takers. Like I said earlier, you do not have to be perfect. You don't have to get a 528 to be acceptable or looked at by these schools. You are more than just your number, and that is something that I want to make sure that you hear again. Next section, now that you have finally finished your MCAT, you are ready to start the primary application, your MCAS. It's long. Actually, no, I shouldn't say it like that, because you just took the MCAT. This is going to seem like a cakewalk. It's just a lot of clicking and typing. So, the primary application, you're going to fill out your demographics. My name is Jasmine, last name McCoy, blah, 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 blah. You're going to, and I wrote this down, you're going to choose your medical schools. And that is so simple. You're literally just click, 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 putting them kind of like a shopping cart kind of thing. And then you're also seeing the amount that it takes to apply to all those schools go up and up and up. We don't like that kind of shopping. But this is where you'll see visually all the schools that you're applying to. You'll pay that, however that much that might be. I applied to 20 medical schools because I wanted to cast a wide net and make sure one of y'all is gonna let me in. Not knowing that it would be a top 15 medical school, but one of y'all is gonna let me in. And then you're going to go on to submitting your MCAT score, submitting your letters of recommendation, depending on if maybe your school does a letter package. Maybe you have to ask each of the people individually to submit their letters. Maybe you are someone who is applying for an MD PhD program. So in this section, you're able to submit up to 10 rec letters, and you have to assign the rec letters to which school they're going to. In this part, they're saying that if you want to apply to regular MD, you should apply to around 5, but if you're going to be applying to a dual degree program, then you want to do more than that, so 6, maybe even 7. But at the end of the day, this is your application. I made the decision that I was going to apply regular MD and that I would send 6 letters. And my advisors, they kept asking me, like, are you sure you want to send 6? Are you sure you want to send 6? You're applying regular MD. We usually have people who are doing dual degrees to do more than 5. And I kept saying, yes, I'm sending 6. These admission teams will know exactly who I am by the time that they finish reading all 6 of my recommendation letters. They will know who I am. They won't be able to say, I wish we could find a little bit more out about Jasmine. I wish we could find a little bit more of X thing that we're looking for in, I don't know, leadership. Obviously, with AKA, they wouldn't be asking for me to see more leadership. But you see what I'm saying? I wanted them to know exactly who I was. So that is why I sent many recommendation letters. I sent 6. There's, obviously, you could send 10 if you wanted to. You could also only send 1 if you wanted to. Actually, no, I think that's wrong, because sometimes the schools will specifically say you need at least 3. You need at least 4, however much it might be for them. So make sure that you read that part when you're getting to that section of medical school applications. You're also going to list 10 activities that were important to you in your undergraduate career. And this part is far too much to just get into this video, so I'm going to do another video about that later, about specifically what I wrote for the 10 activities that I said were important to me. And the final part of your primary application is going to be your personal statement. Again, this is something that is too big to talk about in this video. I'll make another video for it later. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you can be alerted when that video goes out. But your personal statement is going to talk about who you are and answer the question, why medicine? And what qualities do you have that make you fit to be a physician? So that is the end of your primary application. The next section is going to be your secondary application. Your secondary application is what happens when, after you have sent out your MCAT, your primary application, they do their initial screening and they say, we want to know more about you. And do they want to know more about you? Because this is going to be the section where you have to write individualized essays for whatever questions they're asking you. And there's going to be a lot of overlap. They're going to ask you question, as at least now a popular question that they're asking is, how would you enhance the diversity of our medical school population? Or something to that effect. A bunch of medical schools are asking that question now. You also have to be ready for specific questions like, why this medical school? And in that, you're obviously going to talk about the specifics of that medical school, why it is they specifically piqued your interest, because they're not dumb. They know that you are applying to their medical school and many others. That's okay. I mean, they know that you're not dumb and that you're not just going to apply to one. Not to say that if you just apply to one that you are dumb, but that's bold. You got confidence and I like that, but that's bold. So you need to have a very good answer to that question. Why specifically Feinberg School of Medicine? And it's also going to be where after this, they will make their next cut of whether you get an interview, which leads us to our next section, the interview. At least for me, it was very simple. I didn't have to do any traveling, didn't have to do any Ubering, didn't have to get a hotel. I went into the portal, I clicked my day and time that I wanted, I got a Zoom link, and the day of, I would go down all dressed up from the waist up with my little ring light ready. Hi, my name is Jasmine McCoy. Having the interview for, it could be anywhere from, I don't know, 3 hours to lasting the whole 8 hours of the day. It really depends. But that was the next thing that I had to do on my journeys to medical school. I had quite a lot of medical schools come back and invite me to interview. So after that, you're waiting again to see if they're going to accept, reject, or alternate list you. And the final part of my journey to medical school is making the decision. When I was in the position of having to make the decision, I had 6 schools that I was choosing between. So I'm looking at all 6 of them. I'm asking myself, is this the place where I will feel happiest? Because obviously I wouldn't have applied to this medical school if I didn't think there was a possibility of me being happy. But I am looking for the place that I will be happiest. And I ended up choosing Feinberg School of Medicine. So yeah, that was my journey to getting into medical school, from the start of Harvard University, my undergraduate career in 2017, all the way up to the end of my medical school application in April of 2023. That's a long time. That's a long time. Wow. That's a lot of years. But it all paid off in the end, because here I am today, finished with the medical school application process and heading off to a top 15 medical school. So proud of the hard work that I was able to put in and the results that I got in the end. And I'm sure that you can have the same success, if not more, depending on whatever it is that you are reaching for. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.